Okay, today we're going to pick up on page 134 of the book Joey Pigza Swallowed the Key. Do you sell chihuahuas? Mom asked. I'm afraid not, the lady replied, with a really fake smile on her face, and then she began to tidy up the postcard rack. Then we'll just have to take our business someplace else, Mom said, sounding snotty. She grabbed my arm and marched me across the lobby and out the door, and we kept on marching until we weren't really sure where we were. After a few minutes, Mom set down her bag and looked over at the bank clock. We've got some extra time to kill. Let's do some sightseeing. Yeah, I said. We could go to the igloo and see the penguins. I don't think they let you see the hockey rink when they're not playing a game, she said. Besides, I was thinking more about going up to the sky deck of the PPG building and seeing the whole city from one spot. Do they have telescopes? I would think so, she said. But she wasn't so sure, so I started hoping they did right away, because there was something more inside my mind buzzing around besides bees. I had an idea about what I wanted to find in Pittsburgh. When we arrived at the PPG building, we took the elevator up about 50 floors, and by then Mom looked pale. I think I'm going to be seasick, she said, as we stepped out and walked toward the line of telescopes by the big windows. She sat down and took a deep breath. I need a quarter, I said. For the telescope. She reached into her purse and gave me one. I stood up on the little metal stool and slipped it into the slot and looked through the eye hole. I aimed the telescope way up in the air, about as far away from Pittsburgh as you could get. What are you looking for? She asked. The moon, I said. You said Dad might be living up there. Is this why you wanted to come up here, to look for him? Coming up here was your idea, I said, and aimed the telescope at her. Smile, I said, but I couldn't tell if she was, because she was too close and everything was blurry. I lowered the telescope down to the street and watched people walk up and down the sidewalks. Any one of those guys could have been my dad. Can we call him on the phone? I asked. Don't try and pull something over on me, Joey, she said. We're not here to look for him. I'm just asking, I said. I'd like to meet him. I don't think so, she said. I don't think you'd like him. Remember, I said, before you returned, Grandma talked bad about you and said I wouldn't like you either. But then when you came back, I began to like you. It could be the same with Dad. Maybe if I met him, I'd like him too. Take my word for it, she said. You won't. Maybe not, I said, but I won't know for sure until I meet him. I looked through the telescope again. You'd better look in the bars, she said. If you see some little nervous guy with a drunk red piggy pig's face, that'll be him. Do people call him names too? I asked. Don't start feeling sorry for him, she said. He just goes around asking for trouble. Maybe he stopped drinking, I said. Yeah, and the birds stopped flying, she replied sarcastically. There's nothing wrong with wanting to meet my own dad, I said. The meter on the telescope ran out and everything went blank. When I looked at her, she said, I don't have another quarter. I stepped off the stool and started walking across the room toward the phone book at the payphone. I can look his name up, I said as she hopped up and followed. I know you'd like to meet your father, she said. I know it would be good for him to meet you. What troubles me is how he'll be. He could be drunk, he could be sober, he could be nice or mean as a snake. If I knew he had settled down, then we'd think about getting together. But until I know for sure, I can't take a chance that he won't upset you more than love you. Do you understand that? I flipped through the phone book to the P section. Then I turned the pages and went up and down the list of names with my finger. There was no Carter Pigza or Grandma Pigza. Well, she asked, are you satisfied? Not really, I said, because by then I wanted him to stop drinking and I wanted him to want me. She looked at the line of clocks on the wall and seemed confused. There was one for each of about a dozen countries, People in London were going to bed, and people in Tokyo were getting up. "We'd better catch our bus," she said. "It's time for us to get home." The way she said home meant that it was our home, the one we made for ourselves without Dad. And it never would be his home. If I was going to see him, I'd have to go to his home, whatever that was. Okay, so that finishes up chapter 13. Chapter 14 will be next, and we'll pick that up next time.